welcome in. If you're here right now, it tells me something important. You're not just trying to post more content, you're trying to build something that actually lasts. So before we go any further, take a second and settle in. This isn't a hype video. This is a structure video. And structure is what separates creators who burn out from creators who grow. Now, quick favor before we start. If you're a creator who wants consistency without chaos, go ahead and tap the like button. It helps this reach the right people, and it tells me you're serious about learning this the right way. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Not because you should, but because everything on this channel builds on itself week by week. All right, let's begin. Most creators fail not because they're bad at content, but because their channel has no shape. They go live randomly. They post when they feel inspired. They change formats every week. They chase views instead of habits. And YouTube? YouTube doesn't know what to do with that. So in this first section, we're doing 3 things. We're defining your live structure, we're aligning it with your niche and audience expectations, and we're setting up an engagement flow that works even when you're tired. This applies whether you're in gaming, education, commentary, business, lifestyle, reactions, or anything in between. Let's start with the most important question you need to answer. Why should someone show up to your live stream, specifically yours, instead of someone else's? Not forever. Not in theory, just this week. That answer becomes your live format. For some of you, that might be live Q&A, teaching or breakdowns, gameplay with commentary, co-working or study sessions, open discussion, reactions, build with me sessions, strategy sessions, casual hangouts. There is no best format. There is only a clear format. And clarity beats creativity every single time. So right now, as you're listening, I want you thinking about this. What is the one thing someone gets when they click your live? Not everything you offer. Just the main thing. That's your anchor. Now let's talk about live days, because this is where creators overthink themselves into exhaustion. You do not need to go live every day. You do not need to copy bigger creators. You do not need to chase momentum. You need 2 predictable live days. 2. Why 2? Because 1 is too easy to skip, and 3 starts to drain energy and quality. 2 gives you consistency, recovery time, anticipation, and a pattern. YouTube can actually learn. Pick days you can realistically show up even on low-energy weeks. Not ideal days, not fantasy days. Real days. And here's the key. Once you pick them, you stop negotiating with yourself every week. Your audience shouldn't have to wonder when you're live. Predictability builds trust. Now let's talk about your opening, because the first 5 minutes of your live matter more than you think. Most creators waste the opening. They ramble. They apologize. They wait for people to show up. Here's the truth. People decide whether to stay before the chat even fills up. So your opening needs 3 things. Every time. A welcome. A purpose. A direction. You don't need to be loud. You don't need to be polished. You just need to be clear. Something as simple as welcome in. If this is your first time here, this live is for creators who want insert benefit. You don't need to talk. You don't need to perform. Just hang out, participate how you want, and grow with us. That immediately lowers anxiety, and low anxiety increases retention. Now here's where a subtle CTA fits naturally. Not salesy, not pushy, just informative. This is a recurring live, so if you want to be here next time, make sure you're subscribed. That's it. You're not begging, you're setting expectation. Next, let's talk about engagement structure, because engagement does not mean chaos. Engagement means guidance. Your audience needs to know what they can do, when they can do it, and what's expected. That's where your pinned comment comes in, but we'll go deeper into that in the next section. For now, understand this. Your live should never feel like, do whatever you want. It should feel like, here's how this works. That sense of structure makes people feel safe enough to participate, and participation is what turns viewers into return viewers. Now let's pause here for a moment. If this already feels clearer than what you've been doing, if you're realizing, oh, I don't need more ideas, I need a repeatable format, go ahead and drop a comment after the video letting me know what niche you're in. I read those, and they help shape future sessions on this channel. Back to structure. Your first 30 minutes of a live should not be about doing everything. It should be about settling people in, reinforcing the purpose, encouraging light interaction, and letting the room build naturally. You don't rush this. You don't force it. You let consistency do the work. Remember, the algorithm doesn't reward excitement. It rewards time spent. Now let's talk about what viewers gain, because this is where most creators undersell themselves. You might think, I'm just hanging out, I'm just talking, I'm just playing a game. But your viewers experience something else: focus, belonging, learning, calm, insight, motivation. You need to name that benefit out loud, not dramatically, just clearly. This space is for creators who want consistency without pressure. This live is where we break things down without rushing. This is a place to learn without being talked down to. That language attracts the right people. Not everyone. And that's a good thing. Another subtle CTA moment here. If this kind of space helps you, you'll want to check out the rest of the lives on this channel. They're all built around this same structure that gently points them toward playlists and future content without breaking flow. Before we move into section 2 later, let me ground this with a reality check. You do not need fancy overlays, perfect audio, massive chat activity, high energy every minute. You need a clear format, 2 live days, a consistent opening, and an engagement structure people understand. That's it. Everything else is optimization, not foundation. So let me leave you with this as we close section 1. Your channel does not grow when you try harder. It grows when it becomes easier to understand. And in the next section, we're going to lock that in by breaking down how to use pinned comments and engagement prompts to guide your audience without talking over them or exhausting yourself. If this section helped you rethink how you open your lives, tap the like button so I know to go deeper on this. And stay with me, because section 2 is where your lives start feeling intentional instead of improvised. We'll continue in the next part. Engagement systems, pinned comments, chat flow, and audience guidance. All right, let's move forward. In the first section, we talked about structure, why predictability matters, how your opening sets the tone, and how your live stream should feel intentional instead of improvised. Now we're going to talk about something just as important, and honestly, this is where most creators either burn out or finally breathe. We're talking about engagement systems. Not hype, not yelling at chat, not forcing interaction, systems. Because engagement should not depend on your energy level that day. It should work even when you're tired. Let's clear something up right away. Engagement does not mean nonstop talking. It does not mean responding to every message. And it definitely does not mean begging people to type in chat. Engagement means direction. When viewers know what to do, they participate more. When they don't, they sit quietly, even if they're enjoying the stream. Quiet does not mean uninterested. It usually means uncertain. Your job is to remove uncertainty. That's where your pinned comment becomes one of the most powerful tools on your channel. Most creators waste it. They pin, like, and subscribe. That's not guidance. That's noise. Your pinned comment should answer 3 silent questions every viewer has. 1, what is this live about? 2, what can I do here? 3, what should I do next? If your pinned comment answers those 3 things, you immediately raise engagement without saying a word. Let's break that down. Your pinned comment should always start with orientation. Something like, welcome in, this live is for who it's for. You can participate by how to engage or just hang out and listen. That one sentence removes anxiety. People stop wondering, am I supposed to talk? Is this a networking thing? Do I need to perform? You've answered it before they even ask. Next comes permission. A lot of viewers don't engage because they're afraid of doing the wrong thing. So you explicitly give permission. You don't have to talk. You don't have to turn anything on. Participate at your comfort level. That one line builds trust. Trust leads to time spent. Time spent leads to growth. Then comes direction. This is where you guide behavior without policing. Examples. Drop your niche if you want feedback. Use the chat to share what you're working on. Feel free to ask questions. I'll pause periodically to respond. Notice the tone. Not demanding, not chaotic, clear. Now here's where creators usually mess this up. They try to explain everything verbally, over and over, for hours. That's exhausting. Your pinned comment exists so you don't have to repeat yourself. Instead of explaining every 5 minutes, you casually reference it. If you're new here, everything's in the pinned comment. That's it, one sentence, and the system does the work for you. Now let's talk about Nightbot or automated chat prompts, because this is where consistency becomes effortless. Automation is not impersonal, it's supportive. Think of Nightbot as your co-host, not your replacement. It handles reminders so you can stay focused on the content. Here's what automated prompts should do. They should remind, not interrupt. They should guide, not distract. They should repeat structure, not add noise. Good prompts include a reminder of what the live is for, how to participate, where to find replays or playlists, how to support the channel subtly. Bad prompts include spammy sales language, too many emojis, too frequent messages, random unrelated commands. Less is more. A simple rhythm works best. For example, every 10 to 15 minutes, a short message like, "New here? This is a judgment-free space for your niche. Check the pinned comment for how this live works." That's it. No pressure, no begging, just clarity. Now let's talk about chat flow, because engagement is not about volume. It's about rhythm. Your chat doesn't need to move fast to be valuable. Slow chat often means people are listening, people are thinking, people feel comfortable. Don't rush to fill silence. Silence is not failure. Silence is breathing room. One of the biggest mistakes creators make is panicking during quiet moments. They start talking faster. They switch topics. They over-explain. That actually pushes people away. Instead, you lead gently. You ask open-ended, low-pressure prompts, not everyone type right now. But if you're comfortable sharing, what are you working on lately? That phrasing matters. Comfort leads to participation. And here's a subtle CTA that fits naturally right here. If you're finding value just listening, make sure you're subscribed so you can come back next time. It doesn't interrupt. It aligns with the moment. Now let's address something important. Not everyone wants community. Not everyone wants connection. Not everyone wants to chat. And that's okay. Your engagement system should support multiple participation styles. Some people lurk, listen, watch replays, never type and sip. They still matter. They still contribute to watch time, retention, and growth, so you never shame quiet viewers. You acknowledge them. Even if you're just listening, you're welcome here. That line alone keeps people around longer. Let's zoom out for a second. What we're really doing in Section 2 is this. We're removing pressure from you and your audience. You're not responsible for carrying the room alone. The structure carries it. Another subtle CTA moment here. If you want to build a channel that doesn't rely on constant energy, you're in the right place. That's what this channel focuses on. You're telling them what to expect long-term. Expectation builds loyalty. Now, here's a mindset shift that will save you months of frustration. Your job is not to entertain everyone. Your job is to serve the people who resonate. Engagement systems help filter the right audience naturally. The people who like structure will stay. The people who want chaos will leave. And that's healthy. As we wrap this section, let me summarize what you should now understand. Your pinned comment is not decoration. It's instruction. Your automated prompts are not spam. They're reinforcement. Your chat doesn't need to be loud. It needs to feel safe. If you get those 3 things right, your lives immediately feel more professional, more intentional, and more sustainable. In the next section, we're going to move into weekly scheduling and repeatable formats. How to design a live schedule that works for your niche without boxing yourself in or burning out. If this section helped you rethink engagement, tap the like button so I know to keep building this series at this depth. And stay with me, because Section 3 is where your live streams stop feeling random and start feeling like a system you can actually maintain. We'll continue in the next part. Consistency is not about doing more content. It's about removing decision fatigue, so both you and your audience know exactly what's happening each week without stress, guessing, or burnout. Right now, a lot of creators feel inconsistent, not because they're lazy or unfocused, but because every single week feels like starting over. What am I going live about? What should I title it? Will people show up? Is this even worth doing today? That mental loop is what kills channels. So in this section, the goal is simple. Create a weekly live structure that repeats, evolves, and grows with you, no matter your niche. This applies if you're a gamer, a teacher, a reactor, a business creator, a faceless channel, a lifestyle channel, or someone who just wants a calm, sustainable presence online. The first thing to understand is this: your audience does not need variety every week. They need reliability. When viewers know what kind of live you do on a specific day, they don't have to think. They don't have to decide. They just show up. That's what you're building. A weekly structure usually works best when it has 2 distinct live types. Not 5, not 7, 2. One live is your anchor live. The other is your flex live. The anchor live is the one that rarely changes. Same day, same general format, same expectation. For some creators, that might be a weekly Q&A, a weekly silent or low-pressure work session, a weekly gameplay stream, a weekly breakdown or teaching session, a weekly reaction or discussion. The exact content doesn't matter. The role it plays does. This is the live that teaches your audience how to return. The flex live is where creativity lives. That's where you test things. Try new topics, react to trends, collaborate, explore ideas without pressure. When creators don't separate these two, everything feels unstable. Every live feels experimental, and audiences don't bond to experiments. They bond to routines. Now let's talk about timing. The best live schedule is not based on analytics alone. It's based on energy honesty. If you choose times you can only maintain on your best days, your channel will collapse on your average days. Pick times you can show up even when you're tired. That's how consistency survives real life. Once those times are chosen, they become non-negotiable. Not rigid, but respected. You're not going live when you feel like it. You're showing up because it's Tuesday or Thursday or Saturday, and that's what you do. That shift alone changes how YouTube treats your channel. Now let's talk about repeatable formats inside those lives. A repeatable live does not mean boring. It means familiar. Most strong live streams follow a loose rhythm. The opening welcomes people and reminds them what the live is for. The middle is where the main activity happens. The closing resets expectations for the next live. That rhythm should stay consistent even when topics change. So if you're a gaming creator, maybe every live starts with a check-in, then gameplay, then community questions. If you're an educational creator, maybe every live starts with a recap, then teaching, then audience application. If you're a reactor, maybe every live starts with context, then reactions, then discussion. The details don't matter. The shape does. When viewers recognize the shape, they relax. When they relax, they stay longer. Here's something most creators overlook. Repeatable structure increases watch time because viewers know when to tune in and out. They don't feel trapped. They don't feel lost. That's good behavior in YouTube's eyes. Now let's talk about playlists, because this is where weekly structure becomes long-term growth. Every recurring live type should have its own playlist. Not later, not eventually, immediately. Playlists are not organization tools. They are entry points. When someone discovers one live, the playlist answers the question, where do I go next? Without playlists, your content is scattered. With playlists, your channel becomes navigable. And here's a subtle but powerful truth. Playlists extend the life of your lives. Live content doesn't die after the stream ends. It compounds when it's structured. Now let's address burnout directly. Burnout doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from doing too much without knowing why. When your week has a shape, you stop overthinking. You stop reinventing. You stop feeling behind. You show up. You deliver. You close. You rest. That's sustainable creation. If this part of the video is helping you rethink how you approach your weekly content, this is a good moment to make sure you're subscribed. Not because you have to, but because this channel builds systems like this step by step. Now let's ground this with reality. Your schedule will not be perfect. Your energy will fluctuate. Some lives will perform better than others. That's normal. That's normal. Consistency is not about perfection. It's about returning to the structure even after imperfect weeks. When creators quit, it's rarely because a live failed. It's because they didn't know how to recover. Structure gives you a reset button every week. Now, before moving into the next section, let this settle. You do not need more ideas. You do not need to chase trends every week. You do not need to perform at maximum energy. You need a weekly rhythm that your audience can trust and that you can maintain. In the next section, the focus shifts to calls to action, not loud ones, not salesy ones, but CTAs that fit naturally into your lives without disrupting trust or flow. That's where consistency turns into growth. Stay with it. Calls to action are not interruptions. They are directions. When done correctly, they don't feel like selling, and they don't pull people out of the experience. They feel like part of the conversation. Most creators struggle with CTAs because they think they have to choose between growth and trust. That's a false choice. You can do both, but only if your CTAs are contextual, timed, and honest. The problem isn't that creators use CTAs. The problem is that they use them randomly. So in this section, the goal is to show how to layer calls to action naturally across a live stream without breaking flow, energy, or authenticity, regardless of niche. First, understand this. A CTA should always match the moment. If the moment is calm, the CTA should be calm. If the moment is educational, the CTA should be aligned with learning. If the moment is community-based, the CTA should reinforce belonging. When CTAs feel out of place, people resist them. When they feel aligned, people don't even notice they're being guided. They just act. Let's start at the beginning of a live. Your opening CTA should never be aggressive. At the start, people are still deciding if they're staying. This is not the moment to push. This is the moment to invite. A simple opening CTA sounds like this. If you're new here and this kind of content helps you, make sure you're subscribed so you can find your way back. That's it. You're not asking for loyalty. You're offering continuity. Now, as the live progresses into value, teaching, discussion, gameplay, analysis, this is where affirmation-based CTAs belong. These CTAs are tied to usefulness. For example, if this is making sense so far, tapping the like button lets me know to keep going in this direction. Notice what's happening here. The CTA isn't about the algorithm. It's about feedback. People like being helpful. When the CTA frames engagement as communication instead of obligation, response increases naturally. Now let's talk about midstream CTAs, because this is where most creators get uncomfortable. Midstream CTAs should never stop the stream. They should ride the momentum. Instead of pausing everything to say like, subscribe, share, you embed the CTA into what's already happening. For example, this is something I break down often on this channel. But so if you want more lives like this, subscribing makes sure you don't miss them. That doesn't interrupt. It explains why subscribing matters. CTAs fail when they're detached from purpose. Now let's address monetization-related CTAs, because this is where fear and guilt creep in. Support-based CTAs should always be optional and transparent. A healthy support CTA sounds like, if you want to support the channel beyond watching, there are options in the description, but being here already matters. That sentence does two important things. It opens the door. It removes pressure. People support creators they don't feel manipulated by. Now let's talk about playlist CTAs, which are often overlooked but incredibly powerful. Playlists are the bridge between one piece of content and long-term watch time. A natural playlist CTA sounds like, if you're catching this as a replay, there's a full playlist that walks through this step by step. That CTA respects the viewer's time. It doesn't demand action now. It offers direction later. Now here's an important principle. Not every viewer needs to take every action. Some will like, some will subscribe, some will watch silently, some will come back weeks later. Your job is not to convert everyone. Your job is to make every option visible. Now let's talk about closing CTAs, because endings shape memory. The closing CTA should do two things. Reinforce identity, set expectation. A strong closing sounds like, this channel is about building sustainable systems, not chasing trends. If that resonates, you know where to find me next time. That's not selling. That's positioning. It tells people what staying means. Throughout all of this, here's the rule to remember. If a CTA feels awkward to say, it's probably poorly timed, not wrong. CTAs don't need to be louder. They need to be better placed. When calls to action are aligned with value, they don't push people away. They anchor people deeper. And as this section wraps up, remember this. Growth doesn't come from asking more often. It comes from asking more intentionally. In the next section, everything comes together. Structure, engagement, scheduling, and CTAs into a complete, repeatable system that works across niches and scales over time. This is where strategy becomes habit, and habit becomes growth. Everything you've learned up to this point is meant to do one thing: remove friction between effort and growth. Structure without engagement feels empty. Engagement without structure feels chaotic. Consistency without intention leads to burnout. Calls to action without trust fall flat. Section 5 is where all of this locks together into a single repeatable system you can carry forward month after month, regardless of niche, size, or energy level. This is the point where a channel stops feeling like work and starts feeling like momentum. The first thing to understand is this: systems are not rigid rules. They are defaults. They exist so you don't have to make decisions every time you show up. A strong system answers these questions automatically. What day is it? What kind of live is this? What do viewers do here? What happens next? When those answers are already decided, creation becomes execution instead of debate. So let's walk through how the system works as a whole. Each week has 2 live streams, one Anchor Live, one Flex Live. The Anchor Live does not change often. It has the same tone, the same purpose, and a familiar structure. This is where trust compounds. This is where returning viewers are trained. The Flex Live adapts. It responds to the week. It allows creativity, reactions, experiments, and real-time conversations. This is where growth spikes happen. Together, they balance stability and evolution. Every live follows the same internal rhythm. The opening welcomes and orients. The middle delivers value and guided engagement. The close reinforces identity and sets expectation. This rhythm stays the same even when topics change. Viewers don't return for surprises. They return for familiarity with purpose. Each live is connected to a playlist, not as an archive, as a pathway. A playlist answers the question viewers never ask out loud, but always think, where does this go? When playlists are intentional, a single live turns into multiple watch sessions. That's how long-form content compounds. Now let's talk about sustainability, because this is where most advice online stops being honest. You will not feel motivated every week. Your energy will fluctuate. Life will interrupt your plans. A system does not eliminate that. It absorbs it. If you miss a live, the system doesn't collapse. You return to it next week. If a live underperforms, the system stays intact. If chat is quiet, the structure still works. The system is bigger than any single stream. This is why creators who last aren't louder or more talented. They are more repeatable. Now let's address growth across niches, because this matters. If you are a gaming creator, this system creates familiarity beyond the game itself. People come for the format, not just the gameplay. If you are an educational creator, this system allows layered learning instead of isolated lessons. If you are a commentary or reaction creator, this system creates context and continuity instead of one-off opinions. If you are faceless, this system replaces personality-based pull with structure-based trust. The niche changes. The system doesn't. Now let's talk about scaling. As your channel grows, this same structure allows guest appearances, collaborations, membership content, sponsors, community features, without redesigning everything, because partners don't look for chaos. They look for predictability. A system tells people you are serious before you ever say it. Now here's a quiet but powerful truth. Most viewers don't subscribe because they loved one video. They subscribe because they understand the channel. Clarity converts better than excitement. That's why this final CTA fits naturally here. If this approach, calm, structured, sustainable, is what you want more of, subscribing is simply how you stay connected to it. No pressure, just alignment. Now let's talk about the long view. Channels don't grow in straight lines, they grow in cycles. A cycle looks like structure, consistency, feedback, refinement, then repeat. This system gives you something to refine instead of constantly replacing. Instead of asking, what should I do next? You start asking, how do I improve this piece? That's when progress accelerates. Now, as this video comes to a close, let this land. You do not need to be everywhere. You do not need to chase every trend. You do not need to perform at maximum energy. You need a system that respects your time, your audience, and your capacity. Structure is not restriction. Structure is freedom. Freedom to show up, freedom to rest, freedom to grow without burning out. This channel is built on that philosophy, and everything you've watched here is designed to help creators build something they can actually sustain. The next live, the next video, the next step. It's already waiting inside the system you just built. And that's how real growth begins. Before you go, take a moment to recognize what you've just done. You didn't just watch a video. You learned how to build a system that works with you instead of against you. A system that doesn't depend on hype, perfect energy, or chasing trends, but on clarity, structure, and consistency. That's the difference between creating content and building something that lasts. If this video helped you see your channel differently, make sure you're subscribed so you don't lose momentum. Everything on this channel builds forward from here. Same philosophy, same structure, deeper execution. Check the playlists when you're ready. Revisit sections as needed. This isn't meant to be rushed. It's meant to be used. And remember, growth doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing the right things in a way you can repeat. Take what you learned, apply one piece at a time, and show up again next week. That's how this works. I'll see you in the next one.